Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are gathered here today in a very sweet time on the Vaishnava calendar. Just a few days ago, we celebrated the appearance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the golden avatar who descends to distribute the most confidential treasure of the spiritual world, the holy name, the pure love of Krishna. And just ahead of us, very soon, we will celebrate Ram Navami, the appearance of Lord Sri Ramachandra, the embodiment of Dharma, the ideal king, the perfect example of humility and righteousness. So spiritually speaking, we are standing between two extraordinary expressions or revelations of the Supreme Lord. One side, we see Mahaprabhu's compassion. The other side, we see Lord Ram's perfect character. In the middle of these two festivals, the Bhagavatam places before us a very sobering verse, a verse that speaks about the danger of pride. Because the same qualities that can make a person glorious can also destroy that person. Wealth can elevate a person. Education can elevate a person. Renunciation can elevate a person. But the Bhagavatam tells us about something very dangerous, that when these qualities produce pride, they become the cause of spiritual blindness. And that blindness leads to the most destructive mistake in spiritual life. And what's that mistake? Unfairly criticizing the Lord and his devotees. So today we'll explore these things. What are the sources of pride mentioned in the verse? How does the pride lead to offense? And how Mahaprabhu and Lord Ram show the antidote to pride. Reading verse 1159. Shriya vibhutya bhijanena vidyaya tyagena rupena balena karmana jatasmayena dadya saheshwaran sato vamanyanti hari priyan khala. Translation and purport by servants of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The intelligence of cruel-minded persons is blinded by false pride based on wealth, special abilities, aristocratic birth, education, renunciation, beauty, strength, and performance of Vedic rituals. Being intoxicated with this pride, such persons blaspheme the Supreme Lord and his devotees. Purport. The attractive qualities exhibited by the conditioned soul originally belonged to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the reservoir of all attractive qualities. The moonshine is actually the reflected effulgence of the sun. Similarly, the living entity reflects for a brief time a particular quantity of the Lord's opulences. Not knowing this, atheistic persons become intoxicated by such reflected opulences and thus blinded. They condemn themselves more and more by criticizing the Lord and his devotees. They're unable to understand how they have become abominable, and it is difficult to prevent them from going to hell. It's a pretty heavy verse and purport. So this verse lists actually 8 common sources of pride. And these are not evil things. They're actually gifts from Krishna. But when misunderstood, they become traps. So let's look at these one by one. Okay. Shriya, wealth. So wealth gives influence, gives power, creates the illusion of independence, this term independently wealthy. But the Bhagavatam repeatedly tells us that wealth is a temporary thing. And it's dangerous if it's misused. History shows many wealthy kings who lost everything overnight. And spiritually, the danger is that wealth can produce this mentality that I am the maintainer. The Bhagavatam clearly says, Krishna is the maintainer. We are simply caretakers. Next source of pride is vibhutya, talents, special abilities. This includes intelligence, leadership, creativity, charisma. These are special talents. They're meant for service. But talents, of course, easily produce ego. A talented person may begin thinking, I'm quite special. But the Bhagavatam explains that all abilities, all our talents, and Krishna in the Gita says, I am the ability in man. They all originate in Krishna. So when someone becomes proud of their talents, they're actually claiming ownership of Krishna's property. Again, this is something Krishna has given us. Now, the third one that's mentioned, the word is abhijanena, high birth or aristocratic lineage. In ancient India, this is referred to as noble families, noble birth. But today, it may translate into social status, cultural background, institutional position. But bhakti tradition repeatedly destroys this illusion. Prahlad, born in demon lineage. Haridas Thakur, born in Muslim family. Yet they became great saints. Meanwhile, many aristocratic people born in great families became enemies of God. So spiritual advancement, we know, does not depend on birth, of course. It depends on humility and surrender. The fourth one mentioned is vidyaya. Vidyaya is education. Education is powerful, but education can produce arrogance, intellectual arrogance. You sometimes see this even in spiritual circles. The person studies many, many scriptures, but instead of becoming humble, they become critical. Instead of becoming soft-hearted, they become argumentative. Real knowledge produces humility in behavior. So Bhagavatam explains that one who truly understands reality, with the proper education, becomes gentle and respectful to all beings. The fifth one is tyagena, renunciation. This one is particularly dangerous because this renunciation can produce spiritual pride. Someone may think, I am more renounced than others. But again, the Bhakti tradition warns us what? False renunciation is worse than attachment. Why? Because see, attachment can be purified, can be acknowledged, be purified. But the spiritual pride that comes from false renunciation is blinding to the heart. It's more insidious. This is a warning again, tyagena. The sixth source of pride in the verse is rupena, means beauty. Beauty brings attention, admiration. And what happens when you're admired a lot? The risk is it feeds the ego. Of course, beauty fades. Even the most beautiful bodies eventually become old. And it happens really quickly, actually. Krishna also gives us beauty for service. But the world uses beauty for pride. Then balena, strength. Your physical strength, could be political strength, organizational strength. History is filled with powerful people who thought they were invincible. But Krishna removes strength instantly whenever he desires. The last one on the list is karmana, Vedic ritualism. Even religious practices, this religiosity can produce pride. Now, this is subtle. Even in our spiritual practices, we may feel proud. Oh, I chant more rounds than him. I know more philosophy than her. I follow so many more rules than those ones over there. Suddenly, bhakti becomes a competition. Of course, we want to improve ourselves for sure. We have these metrics, we do more, we do better. But we don't want it to become a mentality of competition that I'm better than you. And this is exactly the mentality that Mahaprabhu came to destroy. This ritualism that comes with religious or even spiritual practices. Now, pride is explained. It says, Jata smayen andha dhiya. It leads to spiritual blindness. Smayen andha. Andha means blindness. Dhiya means the buddhi, the intelligence. So the intelligence, our intelligence becomes blinded by pride. So we have intelligence, ability to reason things, to rationalize, to see things through. But when the intelligence, that capability becomes blinded, it's very damaging. This is extremely deep, actually. The Bhagavatam is not merely saying that pride makes someone unpleasant, obnoxious. It may or may not. What it's saying is that pride distorts perception itself. A proud person doesn't merely behave badly. Proud person begins to see wrongly. And that's the real danger, it's that blindness. And once our perception is destroyed, then everything else follows. You hear wrongly, you interpret wrongly, one judges wrongly, one reacts wrongly, and may still feel fully justified in maintaining their prideful behavior. That is blindness. Not lack of information, but the inability to perceive the truth because our consciousness has become covered by pride. Why is that? Because pride shifts the center from Krishna to one's selfish self. Our spiritual vision, spiritual awakening begins with one truth, that Krishna is the center. I'm not the enjoyer. I'm not the proprietor. I'm not the controller. I'm the servant of Krishna. Who is the controller? He's the enjoyer. He's the proprietor. But then pride quietly rearranges our inner world. Without announcing itself, it places the self, our selfish concept of self, in the center. Then even if externally one speaks philosophy, internally the mood changes. This is my service, this is my realization, this is my scholarship, this is my purity, this is my influence. And once this false self becomes central, then Krishna is no longer seen properly. Then our life is no longer seen through service or interpreted through service, but through sense of prestige. Instead of asking, how may I serve Krishna? The proud mind will ask, how will this affect my standing? How will this affect my image? This is blindness. Another thing that pride does, it creates false authorship. Remember this list, it listed what? Wealth, beauty, knowledge, noble birth, so on, special ability, this talents, abilities. But none of these are independently ours. Did we create our own intelligence? Did we choose our body from a lineup? Like, you go grocery shopping, you choose, the right produce. And so then you can be proud that you had a nice pick. No, we didn't pick our bodies. Did we design our circumstances? I mean, in a sense, our karma designed them. But we didn't pick our circumstances right now. Did we grant ourselves opportunities, memory, strength, longevity? No. These are arrangements of the Supreme Lord, filtered through karma and a combination of his mercy as well. But pride says, I did this. The moment one claims ownership over borrowed gifts, one loses sight of the giver. Yes, we may even worship Krishna externally, but if we don't acknowledge him giving us everything we have at every moment, even through the circles of our arti, we just want to think of ourselves being the doer. The purport gives a powerful image. The living entity only reflects a brief portion of the Lord's opulence, just like moonlight reflects the sunlight. It means whatever is attractive in us, whether it's ability to speak, ability to influence, ability to make lots of money, ability to get things done and manage things. These abilities, they're not original, they're not permanent, they're not independent. So pride rests on misreading that reality. Another problem with pride is that it narrows our intelligence. It doesn't destroy the intelligence, it narrows it. A proud person may still be brilliant, learned, articulate, externally capable, but the intelligence becomes selective. It absorbs what flatters the ego and filters out what threatens our sense of ego. Corrections, we resist corrections, we don't like it. When others are praised, we smile, but inside we feel disturbed. Especially others who are like us, doing our seva. If they're praised, we don't like it. That's pride. Scripture is heard, we hear scripture, but only in ways that reinforce our self-importance. Intelligence becomes selective. Intelligence no longer serves the truth. It begins to serve the false ego. And we can become extremely sophisticated in self-justification while gradually becoming spiritually dull. Pride mistakes externals for substance. And this verse is brilliant because it lists those externally impressive things, wealth, birth, etc. And the soul, or the conditioned soul, can easily mistake the impressive externals for inner purity. Person may look advanced and be hard-hearted in the way they speak, the way they approach other people. Yet another person may appear quite ordinary and be very deeply dear to Krishna. But pride judges by the surface. Krishna does not. Krishna doesn't see that. He sees bhakti. He sees our intention. He sees our inner surrender. He sees our humility, sincerity. So a pride can blind us by making us overvalue what the mundane world values and undervalue what Krishna values. And we keep moving in the wrong direction. And then the key point here is that pride makes us unable to recognize saintliness. This verse says people disrespect the Hari Priyan. Hari Priyan means those who are dear to Hari. We end up disrespecting them. Why? Because we often, when we are blinded by pride, we can't recognize saintliness unless it comes in a package that our ego can admire. Proud person can recognize influence, polish, and scholarship and strength, but they often fail to recognize devotion. And to miss devotion is the greatest blindness. Now, pride is especially dangerous because it resists the medicine that could heal it. What is it, medicine? Mercy, grace of the Lord. Mercy enters very smoothly where there's humility. When this correction works, when there's an openness, there's a humility there. A humble devotee may stumble, but can recover quickly because they can hear, they can repent, they can bow down. But a proud person resists apology, resists correction, resists the sense of dependence that we need to feel to the Lord. And they also resist self-examination. They don't want to look at themselves. And so the blindness becomes self-sealing. It seals us off. That's why pride is so frightening. Other anarthas may pain us, but pride will often flatter us, pumps us up. It gives us a sense of superiority, sense of certainty, sense of false identity. So one may cling to the very thing that's destroying one's vision because it flatters us. So when the Bhagavatam says andhadhiya, blinded intelligence, it means this, that the greatest danger of pride is not that merely that it makes us unpleasant. It makes us unable to recognize Krishna, recognize Krishna's hand, unable to recognize his devotees, and unable to recognize our own fallen condition. And that's the beginning of spiritual darkness, when we become blind. Now, of course, because we're unable to recognize devotees because of pride, this is a big problem. This verse reaches its most sobering point at the last line. It says, Sato vamanyanti hari priyan. Such persons disrespect the saintly devotees who are dear to Lord Hari. It's a warning, not just against generic pride. It's a warning that pride culminates in a specific disaster. Vaishnava aparad, offense to devotees. And advanced devotees know that is not a small thing. We know the story of Ambarish Maharaj, who was offended by Durvasa Muni. If we study our whole tradition, we find that Krishna is often quite tolerant against offenses against himself. But he's not casual about offenses to his devotees. Why? Because the devotee is carrying Krishna in the heart. The devotee is living for Krishna's pleasure. The devotee becomes precious, Hari Priyan, precious to him, in a way that ordinary moral logic cannot fully measure. The Lord absolutely loves his devotees who are sold out to him. So to wound a devotee is not just a social failure. It is a spiritual aggression directed toward one who belongs to Krishna. Why does this happen, this offense? Devotee offense usually doesn't begin with the tongue, typically. It begins with the misdirected vision. First, I stop seeing the devotee as Krishna's servant. Then I begin seeing them materially. Then I reduce them. Then I compare. Then I judge, I criticize. And then I justify. I justify my behavior toward them. That's why this line is so important in this verse. The offense on the lips begins long before in the eyes of the heart. So this verse says, the proud become blind, andha. And then they insult the Hari Priyan. Who? The Hari Priyan, the saintly devotees. That sequence matters. It says pride comes before a fall, and for devotees, the greatest fall is to unfairly, falsely criticize another devotee, to offend another devotee. That's the greatest fall for us. Devotee offense has unique destructive power, right? The mad elephant defense. Because, why is it so bad? Because it attacks the very channel through which bhakti comes. What is the channel? How does bhakti come to us? Through devotees. How do we hear Harikatha? Through devotees. How do we receive guidance, correction, initiation, and encouragement, and example, and mercy? Through devotees. So if the creeper of devotion grows by the water of hearing and chanting, received through Vaishnava association, then offending devotees, Vaishnavas, is like poisoning the roots of the creeper itself. That's why Acharya speaks so strongly. A devotee may struggle with many things and still progress by sincere chanting and repentance. But one who repeatedly indulges in fault-finding, criticism, minimization, and contempt for devotees will find that the taste for their bhakti is drying up. The holy name remains on the lips, but the sweetness diminishes. You'll still be studying scripture, but the revelation, the clicking and the lights turning on, that weakens. Our services may continue, but our inner softness disappears. That's terrifying. And one of the deepest truths in bhakti is that Krishna identifies with his devotees, so he takes it personally. So, story of Durvasa and Ambarish. Lord Vishnu says, look, I'm not independent actually when it comes to my devotees. My devotees are my controllers. So there's a world of difference between responsible discernment and offensive consciousness. Correction that's done in service is sober, it's done reluctantly, it's done fairly and prayerfully. That's required. I'm not saying don't do any correction. But offensive attitude, offensive approach enjoys exposure. See, expose that guy. Correction seeks restoration. Offense seeks diminishment. Correction protects dharma. Offensive attitude protects our ego. So, what is the test of real advancement then? What is one sign of real advancement? Not merely how much one knows, not merely how powerfully one speaks. The real signs of advancement is, does one's appreciation for devotees deepen? Does one become more eager to honor bhakti wherever it appears? Does one become more careful with speech, more slow to criticize, more ready to introspect, more humble, more willing to glorify others? So devotee offense is spiritually catastrophic because it's not merely a moral slip of the tongue. It is a rupture in the ecology of bhakti. It damages the heart's ability to receive grace and distorts our relationship with those through whom Krishna works, the great devotees, and dries up our tenderness on which our devotion depends. That's why the Bhagavatam warns us so strongly. So the antidotes to pride, we're right between Ram Navami and Gaur Purnima. And this time on the calendar is not just poetic, it's deeply instructive. We're standing between the humility of Gaura and the strong character of Lord Ram. And in that sacred space, this Bhagavatam is giving us the medicine. If pride is the disease, then what's the cure? If false prestige and this false pride blinds us, blinds the heart, and what is it that restores our vision? What are the cures? So the antidote to the pride of wealth and possession is that remembering everything belongs to Krishna. Whatever we have is lent to us. We've borrowed it. Our resources, our comforts, our influence, our opportunities, they're not ours independently. The moment we start thinking like caretakers and not owners, then the pride begins to weaken. We reckon, oh my God, I thought it's mine. This is actually Krishna's. This is property of Krishna. Sometimes you have something that belongs to a school like a computer, a sticker on it, property of such and such high school. Everything we have has a sticker on it, property of Krishna. Yes, we get to use it because we are in this organization called this body, but it's not ours. Everything belongs to Krishna. What about our ability to accomplish things? Let's change our mindset that this is not my authorship. I didn't do this. I didn't write this. Krishna has given me this gift. So what do? We replace it with gratitude. Pride says, I did this, but bhakti will say, whatever came was by the mercy of the Lord, by the mercy of my spiritual masters and the whole parampara. We may work hard, we sacrifice deeply, strive sincerely, but we have to remember that our intelligence, our strength, timing, the support, it all came by arrangements that are beyond us. Gratitude protects accomplishment from becoming intoxication. Then what is the antidote to the pride of status, position, high birth? This is the lesson both from Gauranga and Lord Ram. Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself, yet he took the position of a devotee. Lord Ram was the great king, and yet he took the position of being exiled. So what's the identity? I'm servant. If we change our identity to service identity, not title, not pedigree, not recognition, not status, I am servant. Like really reflect on it. I'm servant. What does servant look like? What does servant do? How does servant speak? Every day, look in the mirror and say, I'm servant. What am I going to change? And then what is the antidote to the pride of knowledge? Humble hearing. And we hear with humility. We approach every class that, no, I need to learn something new. Real knowledge softens our heart. So advanced devotees must keep hearing in a dependent mood. Not as masters of truth, but as servants still being purified by the truth. Humble hearing protects our learning from turning into a sense of superiority. Then what about the pride of renunciation or our great spiritual practices? Well, the cure for that is honest introspection. This is one of the most dangerous forms of pride because it can hide behind sacred actions. We can become proud of our standards and our discipline, our service. These are all very good things. We must have standards and discipline and service and purity, grasp of scriptures. We have, but we can become proud. So we have to, very honestly introspect. Why am I disturbed? Why do I need recognition? What is this terminal need to have attention? Why am I threatened by another devotee's progress and their recognition? Why do I relish hearing another devotee's faults? Look in the mirror. Let's introspect. What is it that's causing me to be attracted to these negative things? We can only purify what we can examine. What is examined can be purified. What is hidden tends to rule us. And then the pride that leads to offense of devotees, that pride that makes us minimize others. Well, one of the strongest cures, medicines, is to consciously, deliberately, and specifically honor and glorify Vaishnavas. Sincerely. Mahaprabhu was delighted in glorifying his devotees. He always doing that. Lord Ram revealed his greatness by the love he showed to all his servants and all his citizens. Criticism dries the heart, but glorification, sincere glorification, softens it. Appreciation clears our blindness. So the more we learn to see devotees at all levels, even newcomers, as dear to Krishna because they've turned to him, the more we learn to see that, the safer our bhakti creeper becomes. So as we stand here just a few days before Ram Navami, and just after, still feeling the buzz from Gaura Purnima, the medicine becomes clear. From Chaitanya we learn humility. From Ram, we learn character. And from this Bhagavatam verse, we learn caution. Then whatever Krishna has given us will not become a source of pride. So, dear devotees, this morning the Bhagavatam has done us a great kindness. It has held up a mirror before the heart. We have just come from the golden flood of Mahaprabhu's mercy, moving toward the royal purity of Lord Ram. Do not let gifts become pride. Don't let pride become blindness. And don't let blindness turn into offense. May Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bless us with soft hearts, deep humility, and eagerness to honor every Vaishnava, every devotee. May Lord Ram bless us with gravity, with steadiness, with truth, and noble character, even under pressure. And may Srila Prabhupada, on whom we depend on for everything, bless us that whatever wealth, learning, service, influence, realization we may have, remain forever clean, offered purely, and free from false prestige. And may all of us hearing this Bhagavatam this morning be protected from our subtle pride, enriched with genuine gratitude, and drawn closer to the lotus feet of Krishna and his beloved devotees. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Thank you very much for your kind attention, valuable time. A little more material today than normal, so my apologies. Only left 5 minutes. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Madan Gopal Prabhu. I feel that today's class brought about humility in me, as it was real knowledge. I feel very humble. I'm probably the most humble devotee on this call. Okay. Gail has her. Now is the real question. Gail has her hand up.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yeah, my most impactful takeaway was the clarity with which you spelled out the problems of pride. It was really, so impactful. The clarity, and just because words that are usually used in a kind of buzz kind of way, you really made all of these problems so very relevant. Anyway, my question is, when you said that Krishna takes it personally when we offend those that are dear to him. I was wondering exactly how Krishna feels, because when we as conditioned souls take offense to our beloved people personally, we feel, in a negative way towards the offenders. We don't feel a lot of love in our hearts towards those who offend those that are dear to us. But we know that Krishna's love is overflowing for every single soul, right? Whether they are offenders or not. His love for his children aren't diminished like as it happens for the conditioned souls. So I was just curious about Krishna's sentiment when he takes offense to his devotees personally? If you could,
Yeah, sure. I think we can reflect a bit on that. Krishna does take offense to his devotee being offended, but he does not react like a conditioned soul. That's the key distinction. When we feel hurt, like you said, when we feel hurt because someone harmed us, our loved one, our reaction is usually mixed with some limitations like anger, wounded ego, vengeance, fear. Our love is real, but our love is usually conditioned because we're conditioned. So Krishna's love is not conditioned. So yes, he takes it personally, but without the material hatred, the insecurity, the loss of control that typically comes with our losing our stuff, right? We lose our mind. So a helpful way to see this is Krishna is deeply protective, but not emotionally unstable. He is uncompromising, but he's never contaminated. He is severe when necessary, but he's never petty. You see the difference? So why does he take it personally? Because the devotee is not separate from him in his affection. He says, my devotees are my heart. They're my heart, and I'm in their heart. So when a devotee is hurt, Krishna doesn't stand at a distance and say, this is their karma, their problem. He identifies with them in love. That's why when this Durvasa thing happened, right, with Ambarish, the Lord doesn't say, I'm annoyed. No, he says, in essence, I am bound by my devotees in love. I'm not independent in this matter. You see, so that's quite, it's very personal. It's astonishingly personal. And he doesn't say this because he's lost his emotional balance. He says it because bhakti has such love power, love shakti, that he willingly places himself under the control of that love. See? Now, does Krishna feel negatively toward the offender? Not the way we do. He may oppose, he may chastise, but he sees the offender fully. He sees the harm done to his devotees and so on. But his response is never, never vindictive. So I think the conch is about to blow. So everyone, if you can kindly turn on your cameras and we can take darshan. Hare Krishna.
Temple room, please unmute. Jai Shri Shri Radha Mulidhar, Shri Gaur Chandra.
Are we having technical difficulties? I'm wondering about the silence.
I don't think it's technical. I think it's just
Lotus feet of him.
Yeah.
Huh?
He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him, ecstatic frame emanates, and by him ignorance is destroyed. David scripted thing with the new character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, the Lord of master. Oh, Master, be merciful unto us, and give us a shade of your lotus feet. May your fame be spread all over the free world. We take shelter of your lotus feet. Shiva Prabhupada ki jai. Sorry about the sound, everyone. We unmuted 4 times. It kept getting remuted. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Janitai Prabhu. Baba Bhakti David Dasi. Jai. Jai Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, welcome back to the Afterglow. Madan Gopal Prabhu, do you have a few minutes to stay over time? Be on time, place, and circumstances with us?
Yes, I have all 3. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. There was one devotee in the temple, never made eye contact with me, never looked at me, never said a word, never turned his head in my direction. And I kept seeing him again and again in the temple. And I thought, maybe he's very proud. He's very proud. But then I saw this devotee with a cane, and it turned out that he was blind. And I felt, what a jerk I am, passing judgment. I'm the one who's proud. A little anecdote to illustrate Madan Gopal's wonderful class on pride. It's not just about being unpleasant. It blinds us. Wow, what a powerful point. Madan Gopal Prabhu, thank you. There was also another devotee who I thought was very proud. But when I got to know him a little more, it turned out we're now friends. It was Bhima. It was Bhima Prabhu. Yeah, when we serve the devotees, then all this ignorance goes away. We have Venu Madhuri, followed by Gail, followed by Narottam Nitai Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Gurudev, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for providing those antidotes to pride. They were very clear. I'm wondering if you have any, I know you call them hacks sometimes, but like any sort of Ram. Sorry, I'm distracted. Such a sweetheart. Do you have any sort of like daily sort of tips, like, because for me, pride is just something that is continuously bubbling up. And so I'm wondering if there's a sort of more active, practical approach that you have seen or could recommend for curbing it day to day.
Yes, it's a good question. We have the broad antidotes that we talked about. A lot of it is recognition. Like, can we find ways to recognize the proprietorship of the Lord in everything? Especially the subtle things. Go for the subtle things deeper, like my abilities. We have a very pernicious way of claiming ownership of things. So maybe once we get out of the external, we learn the theory, we learn the philosophy. Okay, this house is not mine. Even my bank balance is not mine. Even my body is not mine. But then when it gets more subtle, it's harder to see the labels that this is Krishna's. Things like our abilities to control things, our abilities to influence people, skills and talents, all these, the very subtle, those are much harder to label. But every time we accomplish something even small, if we can just take a moment and think, wow, not to praise ourselves, like, I made this pizza sauce, it is so good. I mean, everybody loved it, and people like licking their fingers. I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And then it's fine. We can bask in it for a moment and then immediately put the label, this is Krishna's gift. It's fine. Our nature is to bask in our accomplishments. It's okay. But immediately try to give the glory in a very real, in heartfelt way. Krishna, wow, you taught me exactly when to put the hing into the olive oil. I mean, I wouldn't have figured that out myself. I just kind of did it, and now I know that's you. You see, so if the more subtle we get into giving credit to Krishna, Krishna will bless us with more humility. He'll bless us with the right attitude, which is why we have to be grateful for every little ability that we have, no matter what it is. I mean, if you read the Bhagavatam, there's in the second canto, the description of how the super soul works in our body. Every little movement is guided by the super soul, an ability to move our hand like this. You know how many complex things have to happen at the cellular level and at the muscular level just to accomplish something like this. The super soul does that. To build a robot that does this, you know how many people have to, like really design how much code and motors and just to do something like this. So we can glorify the Lord and say, my Lord, how can I possibly take credit for anything? And yet you've given me this. I'm able to somehow get some, attention and appreciation and even admiration, but it's all yours. It's all yours, my Lord. So the more we just keep a sticker, sticker gun, like this pricing gun, just a gun with just stickers. And the sticker said, this is yours, Krishna. Thank you for that. And then we see something that we accomplish, Krishna, this is you, ability, So that's a quick hack that I can offer. Try to visualize that. And we'll feel very great. We'll feel very happy when we're grateful because it opens the channels of mercy even wider. You see, that's why I always say Gita, Gita, gratitude is the attitude. That's what's going to make us pull us through. It's a quick hack. Not really a hack, it's just something we want to think about daily. Hare Krishna. Great question. Yes, Gail. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yeah, a couple things. One is, and this comment about Ananda Bihari Prabhu's story. I was just thinking that, I feel like misunderstanding is what fuels the engine of this world. So many times we misinterpret people's behavior, and then we run with that. It's just like we hear, well, if you start with a false premise and then everything else that's built on that premise is faulty, So, but we are convinced about our mind's interpretation of other people's behavior. And it's not always a misinterpretation as pride. It could be so many other things, about how this person feels about me or why this person did what they did. It's not always that we think is pride. Sometimes we think is other things, but a lot of times it's a misinterpretation of our own mind. And then we respond to that person based on our misunderstanding. So anyway, so that was just that comment. But I actually, Prabhu, I did need to follow up a little bit on my original question about Krishna taking things personally, because I do understand that, Krishna is not emotionally unbalanced and that he loves everybody, but that his devotees he identifies them in the sense that, but he identifies with them in the sense that they are very, very dear to him. But what I'm having trouble with is not seeing his taking offenses personally as something negative in his own heart. I know you said he does not emotionally unbalanced, but I'm not sure how to understand his taking it personally. Yeah. That's not in a negative way.
Yeah. I had a few more thoughts on that, and then of course we had to go to the curtain. But I was reflecting a little bit more. First of all, like I said, right? Does Krishna feel negatively toward the offender? Not in the way we do, right? He may chastise and punish. He may humble. He may destroy their false prestige and so on. He sees the offender also fully. Remember, he's not just seeing the offender as a unidimensional person. He sees the harm that's done to his devotee, but he also sees the offender's inner condition. He sees the karmic implication. He sees the scope and possibility of repentance. And he also sees what response will best uphold Dharma, first of all, and also awaken the soul. So his responses can sometimes be quite fierce, but it's never vindictive, right? So now why does he seem so hard on offenders?
Mm.
Because offending devotees is spiritually catastrophic. It ruptures the ecosystem, okay, of mercy. It's not a small breach of etiquette. It's a direct assault on the very vessel of bhakti, which is a devotee. So Krishna's seriousness reflects the gravity of his act.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when Krishna acts strongly against an offender, he's also doing several things. Krishna does several things at once. He's really good at that. He protects his devotee. He instructs the world. He humbles the offender. He purifies the whole situation. And he preserves the sanctity of the bhakti ecosystem. So his severity is real, but his motivation is always pure. Now, is he unforgiving? Not ultimately. If Krishna were unforgiving in an absolute sense, there would be no hope for us.
Mm-mm.
You see, he's extraordinarily merciful. He has arranged that offense to devotees is often healed through the devotee, not bypassing the devotee, right? So that's why he said he had Durvasa go back to Ambarish. He didn't say, okay, fine, I forgive you, case closed. No, no, no. He said, Durvasa, you have to go back to Ambarish. So what is that teaching us? It's that Krishna does not cheaply override the devotional reality of relationships. He wants the offender to be transformed, not merely excused. So his so-called or apparent unforgiveness, if we may call it that, is really the refusal to trivialize the Vaishnava aparadha. It's not hard-hearted. He's honoring the truth of love. So how does Krishna actually feel? We could say, by reading the Bhagavatam, we can say, how does Krishna feel? He feels protective love toward his devotee. Nrsimhadev came out, protected Prahlad, hugged him. He feels displeasure toward the offense. He'll feel divine anger. Nrsimhadev is a divine anger. It's not our egoic anger. It's the transcendental anger. He remains merciful even toward the offender. When Prahlad Maharaj asked, my Lord, please, make sure my father, please forgive. And the Lord said, no, of course, yeah, he's going back to God. Don't worry, because you're a devotee. He says something like, the Lord desires rectification, not the offender's ruin. His anger is like a surgeon's scalpel, not a criminal's weapon, not a bazooka. It cuts, but for truth. The Lord's mercy wounds, but to heal. And it destroys. What does it destroy? It destroys our falsehoods. It destroys our arrogance. So sometimes Krishna's refusal to immediately forgive is itself a mercy to the offender, because he doesn't want to prematurely erase the consequence. Otherwise, the offender may never understand the seriousness of what they've done. So if we are finding ourselves drying up, we really have to reflect and ask the Lord, my Lord, am I offending anybody? Please give me a clue. I really, really need to come out of this. Just looking at the way I treat people in general, it's a good chance I offended 5 people just this morning. So please help me not do that anymore, So then the Lord appreciates that humility, and he will open our eyes if we're sincere about that, you see. So this understanding of the Lord's approach, it makes us feel safe as servants of Krishna, because we know the Lord will protect us. And also, it sobers us. It makes us feel careful in relation to other devotees. Both. We feel safe because the Lord is going to be there to protect us, but also it sobers us. Safe because Krishna is not indifferent, and careful because he's not casual. But the sweetest part is this: even when he is severe, his severity is still a form of mercy. See? So this is the way I would phrase it. Is that helpful?
Very much. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Gail Mataji. I always appreciate your questions. Please keep them coming. Yes, Sundari Radha Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Gurudev, my obeisances to you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I was going to bring up the point that Vanu Maduri brought up, and actually yesterday I was on the phone with a family member, and they asked how I was doing, and I kept saying, I'm doing. And I stopped myself and realized, wow, there's that ego. So it was just like a really, highlighted moment. of my day yesterday. And I do have a question. It kind of goes with the news, but how can we kind of train our minds to see the good in one another, even if, we all have faults? But how, like, what's a practical way on a day to day, like those little moments to kind of, instead of highlighting that bad thing that it can show?
Yeah. Because when we're conditioned, it's true. We tend to go for the bad things. We tend to see them more. As practicing devotees, we want to be devotees of the Lord. So there's some good ways to protect us from this pride. Like it's in the same line as what Venu Madhuri's question about hacks. Whenever something goes well, we should internally credit 3 others, at least, before crediting ourselves. That's a quick hack. So when something goes well, pause and think, who helped make this possible? Not me, other than me. Gurus, Vaishnavas, Krishna, circumstances, team members, family members, mentors, what I learned from my parents, everything. What happens when you instinctively, our instinct is to become the sole author. Oh, I'm the author of this book. No. So when we pause, when things are going well, we pause and think, who should I credit? I need to credit at least 3 people. It has to be very real. It has to be good connection. See, so it's a real exercise. It interrupts the ego's instinct to become the author. See? Another quick hack is glorify someone else immediately after we are praised. Not artificially, because even that artificiality sounds very hackneyed. It has to be truthful and sincere. Someone appreciates you. Mention another devotee's contribution. Even if you did the whole thing by yourself, you can say, I learned it from this devotee. If they didn't help, you can at least say, I learned it from this other person. Praise is dangerous when we absorb it, but it's very safe when we redirect it. It's not that we're not taking some credit, we are, but we can appreciate the people who built us and give credit where it's due, because ultimately Krishna is the recipient of the credit. That's what it means. When you say Krishna is the enjoyer, what does that mean? Krishna is the enjoyer. I'm enjoying this. How is he the enjoyer? Well, he's the enjoyer because we are glorifying him for the abilities that he's given us. So my Lord, you should enjoy the credit for this. You should be the one basking for the garland that I made. And then Krishna says, why? You made it. No. But it's you who gave me the ability. You gave me the string. You gave me the flower. You even said in the Gita, I'm the string on which everything rests. That's you, my Lord. You see, that's your conversation with the Lord. You see, it's very sweet that way. So redirect glory to someone else after being praised. And then once in a while, do some unnoticed seva. Clean something. Scrub a toilet without telling anybody you did it. Set something up, pick something up, serve without announcement. There's a whole government group called Secret Service that protects the president. They're not so secret, but we want to do secret service. We want to serve secret. Once in a while, do something. Secret service is strong medicine for our subtle ego. And then also be vigilant. Now, this is something you want to watch out for, is watch your disturbance level. It's a revealing test. How upset do I get if I'm not recognized? Or if I'm not consulted when I'm supposed to be the subject matter expert and nobody even asked me? How upset do I get when I wasn't appreciated? So our level of disturbance is our pride becoming visible. See? And then this one is important when we really feel a strong urge to heavily criticize someone. Delay the criticism by 24 hours. Breathe. Wait, chant first, sleep on it, reassess. Half of what we're ready to say doesn't need to be said the next day. So these are the few hacks that we can think of. And keep one person in your life who can correct you, like someone you can trust. It's a pride proofing device. It's giving someone permission to tell you when your ego is showing. That's a good friend. Hey, you didn't completely zip her up. Something is showing. Oh, thank you. That's a good friend. See, it's better that your friend helps you through rather than everybody else laughing behind your back. See? So without that friend, our pride becomes self-protecting. Pride protects itself. So it's good to have. It's hard to have a friend. I mean, you really need a close friend who you can trust completely and who loves you. That's why devotee friendship is so important in this world. Hare Krishna. I think we're pretty much out of time. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Madan Gopal Prabhu. Do we have time to hear enthusiastic chanting from Isaiah, Annabelle, Sage, and Sky? Isaiah,
Isaiah looks like
pick up
we're
your
ready.
sword and chant.
Sage and Sky are coming up. Are they coming? There, I see that coming. Okay, there you go.
Sky, Hare Krishna, good morning.
She put earmuffs on her mom.
Wait, what? I'm fuzzy. I'm fuzzy.
Isaiah is blurred. Okay, there he is.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you very much. Great chant and great percussion. Thank you very much. We love you. We need you, Madan Gopal Prabhu. Thank you so much once again. Happy Sunday, dear devotees.
fuzzy.
Association. Go to the temple. Crawl to the temple if you have to. Dance, chant, sweat, feast for Krishna. And come again tomorrow. Hare Krishna.